Florida State boosters pulling their money until Mike Norvell is gone.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, where right now new customers can bet $5, and if it hits, you can unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Just download the FanDuel app today to get started. We're going to be talking about Florida State versus Stanford, the prediction. Might even have a little time for a little talk around college football. And before we get to the prediction, of course, I want to talk about what I expect to happen. And I'm glad, really glad that I dug into the stats over the last few days and a little bit of film. This game should not be that close. Florida State earlier this week, last I checked, 17.5-point favorite. I can see why. I'm going to tell you why Florida State wins by double digits. But to start the show, it's honestly the more important thing. It's not even the game, as crazy as that may sound. I had thought about Florida State from a perspective of, if I was a booster, how would that go with all that's happening? And I talked about it a little bit this week on a show earlier. I don't have the same connections that some of them do at War Chant, etc. But Jeff Cameron and several of those guys do. And sounds like, according to Mr. Cameron, among others, that some boosters are pulling their money until Mike Norvell is gone. Ironic. Read that today on Knowles 24/7. And I was like, man, somebody brought that over there to the board. I was like, okay, that's ironic because on my channel, the YouTube channel, Locked On Seminoles, I've got a post I'm going to read in a second. Boy, this sounds familiar. This person admitted they weren't a high roller, but it just shows the level. It doesn't matter how much you donate. It's the number of people that are just done. The number of people that are just done. The Pittsburgh game, I think, was the final straw to break the camel's back for at least a lot of fans. And it's a very similar tone. Again, doesn't matter the level of booster, fan, the age, the education, close to Tallahassee or not. These posts, these comments are very consistent. So allow me to give you a few. But the first one is one of the longest posts I've ever had on my YouTube channel. I'm going to read part of it. It's a diatribe, but very accurate and very consistent. This is from Jody Lane. As a booster myself, I don't donate millions like some do, but I do donate a few thousand every year. And at this point, I am completely done with Norvell and have decided to stop donating until he's gone. I've been a lifelong fan since the mid-'80s and a booster since 2006. I kept donating through the last part of the Bowden career when things were rocky, and even through Taggart. I've donated all the way through Norvell until now because I don't see a silver lining with him where he is, because he's never recruited here and basically puts a brand new team on the field every year. It's hard to win consistently doing that because most of the time a new team doesn't have chemistry. Before I go further, just want to say one thing. I'm glad somebody else notices that. You can win that way, like the 2023 team had a ton of transfers and they hit. But it's high risk, high reward. Continuing. In Norvell's sixth season, he still doesn't have the program foundation built. Sadly, that's true. And next year is going to be the same because we're losing so many starters because they're senior portal players. Let me comment on that real quick. I had commented about that over the last few weeks several times, but when I read this post on YouTube today, it was really difficult to not just sit there and sigh and be like, man, that is a terrible reminder. Florida State needs to spend a massive amount of money in the portal again because they take 1 year and they're gone, 1 year and they're gone. It's just rinse and repeat. Can anyone name one player that Norvell recruited this year, and that's a junior or senior, that he developed that's doing any good? Now, I could name a few, but overall, that's a really good point. It's a very low number. That's a problem. Jabril Rawls, that would be one. He came to Florida State straight out of high school. That's a good player. He'll probably play in the NFL. Edwin Joseph, and a few other guys. There's some good players just in the secondary. Okay. Blake Nicholson's had some moments, but, like the linebackers have struggled. Daniel Lyons has had some moments. Cam Davis has had some moments. But, overall, the theme in that message is true. I think recruits see that if they do commit to Florida State, that they're probably going to sit the bench for a couple of years. And when it's time for them to actually play, they will get replaced by a portal player. That's something I think is too late for Norvell to fix, because now recruits have seen a big enough sample size of him doing it every year. And this post goes on and on and on. I just overall, number one, this is a really intelligent post, well thought out. Obviously, spending their hard-earned money, they can do what they want with it. And if they want to hold it back from Florida State, by all means. But to the point of the transfer portal as an example, I'm glad people notice that it's not just me. If you're a parent, let's say you're in South Georgia at one of the big box schools, Thomas County Central, Colquitt, wherever, Lee County, why would you send your kid to Florida State when they're going to recruit over them through the portal? You're going to get the same question from kids that have parents in Orlando, in Mississippi, in Georgia, up in the Atlanta area, in Birmingham, all the places that Florida State has historically recruited and always will. This is a problem. I understand the booster concern because you're spending money on something that really doesn't help much. And on top of it, it's been long enough that the one really that just stuck me in the gut out of this whole thing. It's the 6th year from Mike Norvell. And in the own words of this booster, the program's foundation isn't built yet. You can unless you consistently recruit high school at a high level. You're right. So that is a big, big concern that I have. So it's a little bit difficult for me to read some of these, but this one, out of all the posts that I've ever read here on Locked On Seminoles, probably caught me the most. It's pretty tough. Here's another one that's similar. Jerry Foster 3038. Why is everyone surprised? I'm a lifelong Florida State fan, but our defense always has holes. We give up big plays and celebrating like we made a big stop. We don't intimidate anyone anymore. Opponent receivers are given enough cushion to make a couch. That's a great line. It's awful. Look at our tackling angles. We get shook out of our shoes by mediocre receivers and freshman offensive players. I think he's referring to the quarterback last week for Pitt. No intensity, urgency, or discipline. I'm saying and seeing this being a loyal fan. Also, we got to get more receivers in the plan. Obviously, they threw up quite a bit to Deuce and to Mackay, and I get it. They're NFL players, but that's a fair point as well. When we come back, I'll talk about a couple more posts, and then I want to get into what I think is going to happen in the game, give my prediction. This is a very important game for Florida State against Stanford. They've got to win it. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP, or in my case, look forward for what I'm going to project. Who delivered, powered by DoorDash, just like you could win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most, so let's break it down. Again, this is supposed to be about what happened last week, but I'm done with the Pittsburgh game. We're going to talk about Stanford and what I think is going to happen. I think Florida State's going to run over their front seven, especially early on, just enough to set up play action passing. And the heroes of the game will be those players coming back into the lineup, Randy Pittman, Wayne McCoy, and anybody else that's a pass receiver. The defense, or lack thereof, for Stanford's going to get smoked. They give up 303 yards per game. I think the receivers, tight ends for Florida State are going to have a massive, massive day. And just like all the receivers and tight ends for Florida State are going to eat up Stanford, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. You can do that every single weekend with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code GOOD through November 18th. We are also brought to you by your friends over at SupplyHouse. SupplyHouse has the opening whistle when it blows on a new repair. Get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow with 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from all over at your disposal. Real-time inventory, honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need something right away, yes, SupplyHouse will get it to you the next day. If you need to figure it out, you can go in there and use all their tools, including the part finder tool, 3D schematics, anything else you need to make sure you get what you need for your customer. Join the Trademaster program today and get serious perks, including getting all the priority shipping, getting a dedicated support line, and more. SupplyHouse.com. Sign up for free. That is SupplyHouse.com. Code SHCollege5 for 5% off. SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real services. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. I appreciate you stopping in. Please like and subscribe as we try to figure out all this craziness with the Florida State football program. Going to start dabbling a little bit with the basketball. Looks like I think Coach Locke's going to do a pretty good job. I think he's really invested, and good for him. He gets to come back to his alma mater. We'll be talking more hoops very, very soon. But right now I want to discuss, and this is very, very important that I'm right, Florida State trouncing Stanford. Earlier in the week, I was very hesitant to even pick Florida State to win. Two things changed my mind, and another kind of added on to the second one. First off, if you believe it, and it's a big if, Deuce is supposed to play. Stanford doesn't have anybody to guard Deuce. Miami has a hard time guarding Deuce. What's Stanford going to do? What's Stanford going to do? They give up over 300 yards a game. If Deuce plays and Randy Pittman's back, and I'm not even counting Squirrel, they're not a really dominant pass rushing team. I think 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 8, which is usually iffy, becomes a lot more like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. That's important because Tommy was beat up a little bit last week. I'm sure that not only he, but Gus Malzahn, Mike Norvell, and everybody else on that staff would like to see Tommy standing on the sidelines waiting the game, and it's 41-20, something like that. Matter of fact, that's my prediction for the final score. But at the same time, to get there, you got to connect. If these guys all play, and I'm giving myself a lot of leeway, if Deuce doesn't play this game, I think could be a lot closer, 10, 12 points difference. Because every single snap that he's in the game, that's one more snap each time that if that defense plays single high or plays cover 0, they don't have guys to cover him. 3rd and 10 can be a touchdown. They do not have somebody to cover him. And we already know how fast Mekhi Danzy is. But when you put them both out there at the same time, they're going to play cover 2, cover 3. And I expect, as I noted, Florida State to come out and run them over. Because you've got to put an extra guy in the box if you can't play man coverage against Florida State's outside receivers. Or essentially, man, you can play cover 2 very aggressively and play the flats and have them diving down and doing all that. But not against Florida State speed. That's going to get you killed. You might get a few more tackles for loss, but you will see the ball go over your head because safeties are not running with Mekhi in particular. Most corners can't even come close. And then Deuce pretty fast as well, and he's about 6'6". If both those guys are out there, Randy Pittman's out there, Landon Thomas is starting to play more, they don't have the athletes. So I think they're going to play very soft early. Florida State's going to run the ball and be in a lot of 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 situations. And they're just going to kick the crap out of them in the first quarter to the middle of the second quarter. They might take some chances, get a couple of drives for Florida State to stall on blitzes or something. But overall, the athletes are going to cause problems. I think Florida State will be up 24-10 or something like that at half. Similar score in the second half, 17-10. And just consistently pull away. Now, Florida State has shot itself in the foot over and over. And numerous people, like I mentioned in the first part of the show on Locked On Seminoles on the YouTube page, they've commented on that, and they're 100% correct. It's grotesque. It's grotesque. Stop with the dumb penalties. Don't drop the ball. Don't fumble, blah, blah, blah. Make sound decisions. Now, a lot of people want to throw this all on the coach's feet. That's not. Players got to act like adults in these situations. You got yourself into this hole, get yourself out of it. Some of these play calls are pretty generic, and you either fumble or drop the ball or you have a pre-snap penalty. I mean, even Darryl, like he jumped off sides in a critical moment. Like Everybody is culpable here. If they can even mitigate that by 50%, this should be a 2-score game at half. And that's why I'm picking halftime score 24-10, Florida State. Is it going to be easy? No, Stanford has nothing to lose. They see the Florida State helmet and all that. It's a night game at their stadium. They'll be excited to play. Those guys got nothing to lose. Remember, Stanford lost their coach in February or something, under a terrible circumstance with hazing that he didn't take control of. Bad deal. Bad deal. To that end, that doesn't mean the players aren't going to come out there and play hard. They've done a decent job considering their coaching staff and, Andrew Luck being the GM. They've done a pretty good job. However, they still don't have a ton of great players. If you get by that first 5 minutes of emotion for Stanford, Florida State's offense should do pretty well. When they do not have the ball and the Cardinal are in possession, 2 things I expect. One, I've been saying for a while, at some point they're just going to tackle better. It's inevitable, isn't it? Surely. I would hope that needs to happen. And number 2, just size. The one advantage Florida State will have the rest of this season is their mass up front on defense. They are huge. I don't think Stanford, they've got a pretty good running back. I don't think they're going to be able to run consistently. I expect a lot of 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8s, slightly behind the chains, and that may not sound that big of a deal. They don't have anything like Florida State does at receiver beyond their top guy or so. I think it's William. I forget the kid's name. He's a pretty good player. They're number 1, but they're not going to just pick Florida State apart like some of these other teams have. Now, the linebackers I don't trust for Florida State at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm concerned about the screen game and the underneath stuff. Sure. But they're not going to 15-play drive to death. I don't see it because their run game I don't think will be as good as Pittsburgh. They have some pretty good running backs because the offensive line's not that great. I think Pitt's O-line's better. And I also think that quarterback for Pitt had a moxie to him. Heinzel's got a chance to be an NFL player. He's a good-looking player. Just needs to continue to improve his arm strength. That kid will be good to go. But I think Florida State will cause them to punt a lot more than they'd like unless they're going for it all night on 4th down. I think Florida State's got a huge edge there. Final point before we go into the break, and then I give my final score prediction and give a little backdrop for this weekend's games and some of the other big games around the college football world. Florida State hasn't had a big play this year on special teams. It's due. Punt block, field goal block, kickoff return, something. Doesn't have to be a touchdown. It doesn't. But even if you just come close, like on the first drive that Florida State stalls out the Stanford offense, they punt. If you don't block it, that's unfortunate. But if you scare that punter, that next time you come close, how often do you see the punter the next time they speed up their delivery to kick the football and they shank it? 15-yard punt, 12-yard punt. There are different ways to impact the game on special teams, and especially a team that's fragile. And I'd say that Stanford is way more than just fragile. They're pretty bad. If they can do that, that's like an extra turnover. Watch the game from a lot of different perspectives, not just offense and defense in particular. Watch special teams. A team like Stanford that had all the transfers and all the turnover with staff, special teams often suffer, and I think Florida State will be the beneficiary. When we come back, I'm going to give my final score prediction for Florida State and the Cardinal. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can use it however you want. You could bet on the Patriots to somehow miraculously win the AFC East. You could go out and say that my Indianapolis Colts are actually going to do something and make the playoffs, which would shock me. Even though they played pretty good this year. You can bet on player props, parlays, who's going to be the rushing champ, whatever you want to do. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and to get started. All right, let's talk about Florida State, Stanford final score and why. Just summarize. 41-20 is my prediction. I think it will be a quote-unquote slow burn. I don't think Florida State's going to get up 34-3 at half. play the starters through early in the third quarter and pull them. I think they're just going to grind on them. I think the run game is going to cause a lot of problems because, as the saying goes, they're going to be in flux. We don't have the secondary, especially secondary depth. If Florida State goes and puts their foot on the pedal and runs tempo, which I guarantee you Gus will want to do. That's who he is. But especially against teams that don't have depth, Gus's offense is the last thing you want to see on the other sideline. There's nothing worse than seeing no huddle when you're thin on defense. Not a good time. You're going to see it. Secondarily, just matchups. This is a forest for the trees here. Florida State's going to hit at least one, if not two plays in the first half that you go, yeah, that guy right there, he's a better athlete. Randy Pittman, Usman Chroma, Gavin Sawchuk, Landon Thomas, Wayne McCoy, on and on and on. I could name some other guys too. Doesn't matter which one. Somebody's going to catch a 5-yard hitch. Maybe it's a slant route to Jalen Lucas. Maybe he catches a swing route or a wheel route. Jalen's due for another big play too. Whatever it may be, it's going to be, I have an athlete on my sideline that you don't over there. We're going to get one-on-ones. That's going to cause problems. It could be a 3rd and 15 that not just a score, but it's like, oh my gosh, he's wide open. This is easy. There's going to be at least one of those because, again, the numbers don't lie. They're giving up over 300 yards through the air a game. I know this is a passing era, but good night. That is awful. They don't have the players to do it. I do want to reiterate, just for the sake of argument, at the outset, I mentioned press conferences have talked about do, should go. How many different lies or missteps have we had this week, or this season, like last season and the year before, etc., with Norvell and injuries? I don't trust anything that comes out of there. My prediction changes if Deuce does not play. He changes every single snap. Even if he doesn't play, they should still win, but he makes it where I think this point spread's still around 17 on FanDuel, somewhere around there. I think they will cover that. I'm not a betting guy by any means, but I just don't see how they stop Florida State. And I'm kind of guessing the road game is probably a good thing. Get away from Doak, not around the fans, just go handle business, kick the bejesus out of them. And finally, with that, kind of just get the stink of the 3-game losing streak off your back. I think Florida State's going to want to pour it on them. 41 might be low on my end. I don't know how the defense will play because it's played porous the last few weeks. There's no way around it. They've been bad. But I don't trust Stanford's offense either because I don't think they're going to do as well as they need to on the running downs, like 1st and 10, 3rd and 2s. I think they're going to have some problems with Florida State. The size, again, Daryl, Daniel, the Desir twins, they don't have, Jason Jacob, they don't have guys with that kind of size that they're practicing against that also possess that type of athleticism beyond maybe just a couple guys. They got one DN that's a pretty good player at Stanford. I liked him, but they don't have that. And if you don't, it's hard to practice and prepare for it because you're just putting it on a chalkboard. Do they really have somebody that's going to put in the effort that the Desir twins do with that kind of athleticism? Probably not. I think that's going to cause them problems. And I see a lot of 2nd and 8s in Stanford's future. And when you get behind the chains, no matter how good you are in college football, not many quarterbacks are going to light you up. It's just how it works. So I think that's a big edge for the Noles. Now, just for fun, just going to talk about another pretty cool slate of college football games tonight for those that are interested. On Friday night, Louisville plays at Miami. I think that's kind of an interesting game. I think that'll be a little better than what some people think. Say what you want, but Brom can coach. And Louisville's got some serious talent at the skill spots, and their stud Brown. What is he? Stud running back Isaac Brown. I think he's from Homestead, just right outside of Miami. That's a big game for him. I think that'll be a little closer than what some people think. We'll see how that goes. Nebraska at Minnesota. I don't know who's going to win that game, but just from an aesthetic standpoint, it'll probably be ugly. But Nebraska really needs to win that game. But Minnesota's been the better program the last few years. So we'll see how that goes. Speaking of needs that game, I know it's not fair. Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers travel to Vanderbilt to play the Commodores. Vanderbilt is 17th in the polls, for whatever that's worth. LSU's 10th. LSU's offense is starting to get a little better, and I like them. I don't think Vandy will be able to throw the ball on them much. LSU's secondary is really, really good. But LSU's offense has been bad because their offensive line. I'm picking them 23-14. But if they somehow lose to Vandy, Brian Kelly's seat's going to get really warm because, fair or not, LSU fans will not accept losing to Vanderbilt. They just will not. Wouldn't matter if Vanderbilt was ranked number 1. They see the helmet. It'll be an interesting scene. Georgia Tech at Duke. The winner of that game is probably going to play Miami in the ACC title game. Washington at Michigan. Do not be surprised if that game ends up being a situation where Washington wins. If you have not seen Damon Williams for the Huskies, holy moly, is that guy dynamic. He is basically Castellanos, just about an inch shorter. He's 5'9", 5'8". He can fly. He might even be faster than Tommy, and he can sling it. He's a really talented quarterback. Looking across college football here, just a few other key games are coming up. Notre Dame USC's in South Bend. That's a great game. I think that might be the best game entertaining-wise all day long. Ole Miss at Georgia should be a fantastic game. Ohio State at Wisconsin will not, but I bring it up for another reason. Will Luke Fickell get fired because that game could be 48-0? Don't be shocked. That game is 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. Let me see what night games here besides the Irish that are any good. Oh, I don't know what to expect. Penn State at Iowa. Penn State just fired their coach. Who shows up in that game? It's on Peacock, so nobody's going to see it. I hate it that they put that on that stupid app. But Iowa is the better team, and Iowa's at home. That could go a lot of different ways because to how they're playing. But, I mean, Penn State technically has more talent. We'll see how that goes. Tennessee at Alabama. 7:30 on ABC. I think Alabama's going to win. Tennessee's had some DBs banged up. That's a big deal. One of the running backs has been banged up. That's iffy. Already mentioned the SC Notre Dame game. Missouri at Auburn. Don't be surprised if Auburn ends up winning that game. Mizzou's a 1.5-point favorite. Auburn's been hosed twice in the last 3 weeks on calls. If they can actually complete a forward pass, they might win. The Holy War. Utah at BYU. Fox, 8 p.m. No idea who's going to win. That ought to be a good game. Utah's ranked 23rd, BYU 15th. And again, it's in Provo, so BYU has home field. And then finally, we have Florida State at Stanford. The latest game. Thank you so much, ESPN, with all your stupid time zones. Florida State, an Eastern time zone team playing a 10:30 kickoff game. Absolutely ridiculous. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We will see you again on the postgame show right after the game against Florida State at Stanford.